The following is a conversation between Matías De Stefano, referred to as me, and his higher self, referred to as I am. The date is July 12th, 2021, and the subject is the emotional aspect of the throat chakra in the sign of Cancer. And the title of today's blog is Flower. Me, another day without sleep. I am connecting to the unconscious, sleeping awake. Me, she makes me goofy during the day, like a zombie. I am. It is what allows you to have better communication with your hidden parts. The dream awakens the sleeping. Me, it makes sense, but I need to sleep. I am. I need to sleep. Uh-huh. Me, what? I am. Nothing. Me, tell me. I am. Eat, sleep, produce, and feel safe in those basic needs. One eats food because it nourishes the body. One consumes matter in order to generate matter. Filling the stomach is a symbol of wealth and prosperity. One sleeps to balance the metabolism, to allow the cells to carry out regeneration processes, and the neurons to order information, as well as to strengthen the glands. One produces because that is how he captures what he carries inside and leaves his mark, transcending his genetics in his actions, or when reproducing, which gives him the feeling of being eternal. One seeks security because death is the end of a being's integrity, and it was designed to remain intact. Me. Oh. I am. This is on a biological, physical level. But when we move to the emotional, one eats sensations, feeds on relationships, on different types of feelings produced by interaction with others, which nourishes him. One sleeps emotionally because he needs to dream, because that way he can expand his imagination, provoke the design of possible realities. One produces through ties, links, in the embrace, in transmitting, in leaving a legacy through memory, the memory of the experiences caused by attitudes. You feel safe when you maintain those ties, when you feel part of something bigger that contains you, or a simple hug. Me. Oh. I am. On the mental plane, eating is consuming ideas, information, data, in order to be filled with them and feel that it meets the expectations of learning and knowledge. One seeks to sleep with the mind to be able to think, to find logic in the illogical, to open the mind, to allow oneself to daydream to find solutions to problems. We produce from the mind at the moment we generate a project and prepare to coordinate its implementation. Security is obtained in belief, in affirming in a philosophy, science, or religion that gave us foundations and values to what we think. Me. Oh. I am. So, the phrase, I need to sleep, I wonder, where do you really say it from? Me. Well, these days have been very difficult for me. Since Cancer began, many things turned around inside me. I saw many things that I don't like about myself and the people around me. And I hit bottom in many issues that I had to lose. But I saw that they will always be there. From the first day of this month, you took me through a relentless psychoanalytic process in which I began to somatize everything we are talking about and to feel vulnerable in every way. I cried more times than I am used to. I relived my great existential and emotional crises of recent years. And in each of our conversations, I was seeing more aspects of myself that it hurts for me to recognize, that it hurts to go through. I am. And you just want to sleep. Me. My body is tired, but it's true that it's really only tired because my emotion and mind are exhausted. For a year now, you have made me study day by day, learn new things, observe myself, without respite for a single day. Every day thinking, learning, processing, and then explaining philosophical concepts in two languages at the same time, even in areas I don't know, such as biology, physics, and chemistry, all while I process my own personal growth. It's exhausting. My mental body is saturated, and my emotional body collapsed. That's why I'm sleepy. I am. Everyone sleeps or needs to sleep, but only because they seek to escape from the unconscious. Sleep is the way to relegate to dreams the task we hate to consciously face. Sleep breaks us, weakens us, makes us lose our firmness. It makes you bow and kneel, surrendered to life, and your brain begins to sort the information while you're awake. That creates images, hallucinations. The unconscious comes to light, and it's like looking in the mirror and seeing the reality that we denied seeing ourselves. Sleep is useful, but you make it a necessity when you seek to escape from yourself, of your responsibility. Me. Wow. I am. So, I ask you, why do you choose to stay asleep? Me. Sometimes knowing exhausts me. The path of consciousness exhausts me. Once a class friend in Molins de Rei, Catalonia, asked me rhetorically, who is happier, the wise or the ignorant? His phrase came up from something that had happened in class that day, in which some people laughed at some nonsense that had happened, while we were punished despite the fact that those who committed the nonsense had been at fault. And turning his gaze forward, he replied to himself, answering, the wise man can never be happy, because he does not seek short-term pleasure in things, while the ignorant consider happiness as an easy goal to be found in said pleasures. I was right. Me. Yes. It made me think about this, because when you ask every human being, including myself, about what they expect from life, we usually answer to be happy. That is, to be ignorant. Me. Exactly. Being wise, conscious, demands a lot of responsibility because you understand that well-being only depends on you and the way you live life, which leads the conscious being to try to know all the conflicts, to find the 1,000 ways to resolve them. Something that does not give rest, but rather occupies his entire life. The ignorant or unconscious will seek happiness by satisfying the basic needs that make them feel the beautiful sensations that endorphin and serotonin produce in the body. Thus, the ignorant reacts by stimuli, impulses generated by mechanisms of pleasure or pain. Thus, the ignorant create a false happiness, and a search for it based on superficial elements and intentions. The sage recognizes that happiness is not a goal, and that the search for it is a waste of energy, with which this can only be felt in the realization of oneself. This leads us to self-knowledge. Me. We want to be ignorant. Well, stay asleep, comfortable in the bed of unconsciousness. Me. Is it possible to be happy being aware? Oh, sure, yes. In fact, it's the only real form of happiness. The other is just a mere glandular chemical reaction, like the dog that salivates when it sees food. A conscious being is happy when he has nothing to hide, and is who he really is, owing nothing to anyone, living his life according to his own being, giving his life to the greater being to which he belongs, the universe. Me. How do I do this? I am. Easy. If you call escape sleep, you call responsibility awakening. Me, the famous awakening of consciousness. I am. The flowering of being. When people talk about the awakening of consciousness, they incorporate many points of view of what it represents. It could be said that for some, this awakening is something alien to them, almost like the weather. Me. If it rains, I get wet. If the planet wakes up, I wake up. I am. But it's not exactly like that. It's hard to get wet when you have so many layers of waterproof coats on top. To really get wet, you must strip before life. Remove all the layers that cover your true being, protecting yourself from the world. It requires a certain responsibility to get rid of each one of the layers that we have put on, of the clothes that cover us, so that the rainwater reaches our skin. And the truth is that doing so requires losing security and exposing yourself to being vulnerable to the world. Me, like a flower. I am, like a flower. Exactly. What is a flower? Me. It is the sexual organ of a plant. I am. That's right. As we have said once, many believe that the flowers are the crown, the spirit of the vegetable kingdom. But in reality, that serves for a spiritual and subtle vision, when, in reality, they are the genitals. The genital, for a plant, is its illumination, and therefore the crown and sexual chakras come together here. When a plant has carried out the pertinent nutrition process and activates its potential for transcendence, from the ends of its branches it extends a receptacle that contains a cocoon. It opens on the part of the sepal like tiny leaves that embrace the cocoon, which is made up of petals that gently wrap the pistil, ovary, where the seeds are found. The duct, called style, is like the vagina of a flower, ending in the stigma, which is the vulva, surrounded by stamens that contain in their antennae the pollen, the sperm of the plant. The most striking thing about a flower are its petals, since they are arranged in a beautiful mathematical proportion that allows it to reflect and receive sunlight, as well as attracts insects to pollinate its pistil and disseminate its pollen to other plants through long distance. The petals are filled with pigments and scents that attract various creatures to the genitals of the plant. Trees, all vegetables, expose their genitals to the world in their corresponding seasons, leaving their most sensitive parts visible to the naked eye, and it is the same ones that draw our attention to everything. It is a flower that dazzles insects as well as humans, that arouses so much hunger in some creatures and love in others. Her fragility is sensual and powerful, and it shows us the strength of a species that, by showing its weakness, expands beyond the limits of its territory. Me, it's beautiful. I am. That is why you expose your fragility. Well, it is the weakness and delicacy of your sensitivity that expands and pollinates the world through our words. Me, I understand. I am. Your state of weakness is the state of power. Your state of depression is the magical realism that awakens the beauty of the soul. And this is a message for each of those who are in the awakening process. The true power of transcendence is found in the sensitivity of a fragile soul. It is useless to cover ourselves with armor, bark, trunks. It is useless to cover ourselves with mosses, cover ourselves with disguises that hide and protect us from the world. If our goal is to expand, we will never do it by defending ourselves and covering ourselves with layers that cover our true being. You have to get to the skin, to the petals of this fragile and soft soul. Me. I expected you to explain to me about the flower of life, but I understood where our conversation was going. I can feel what you say in my soul. I feel fragile, and my skin reacts to that weakness. I think I exposed myself too much. I am. Exposing yourself hurts. It has left you naked in front of the world. But if it is what is really pollinating what has been built this year, outwards, but also inwards, undress. Tell me, what are your shames? Me. I'm ashamed of my body. I've always been ashamed. My genitals disgust me because it reminded me of being a woman. It wasn't until I was 18 years old that I accepted myself as a man in this life, and I refused to touch myself. I always knew that I was homosexual since I was 6 years old. I remember that I liked a classmate from kindergarten and elementary school. I refused to think about women sexually because I considered it a sin, strange as it may sound, since it sounded to me that any woman could be my mother, my grandmother, my aunt. I was raised among women, and I saw every woman as an extension of the women of my clan. It even gave me an incestuous terror. Men, on the other hand, were absent in my life, and it was not difficult for me to think of them sexually. There was no reference whatsoever for me. Even though my mom was always open to talk about her relationships and mine, I was always ashamed to talk about sex, to show parts of my body that I even considered sexual, like my thighs or my belly and chest. I'm very ashamed to look a person directly in the eye. I'm also terrified that they might think that I have an active sexual life. I am. Why do you think you are ashamed of sexuality? Me. Maybe because at school and in the neighborhood, my sexuality was taboo, something that was wrong, something that shouldn't be talked about. And so I needed to hide it. Beyond the fact that I have had relationships and partners since I was 21 years old, I have not really opened up to living my sexuality freely until a few years ago. More specifically since 2017 or 18. I lived a late adolescence, which reached my 27 years, and I began to do things that are normally done unconsciously at 19, but at 29. I am. Say it. Me. At one point, I thought I could become addicted to sex. I felt a great dependence on it, but I realized that it was a great lack of love for myself that I was looking for in others. That I still look for in others, to say it better. I am an anchor to reality for a being who lives with his mind in other planes, required for certain moments, although a danger for other moments. Saying this today, showing your flower, frees you from a secret. Today, laryngeal day, the throat, you can recognize that the secrets lie hidden in the shadows of the unconscious through taboos. And that despite talking about sexuality at other times, they are things that are difficult for you to say, like everyone else. By culture, most of the secrets they seem to make us firm and strong before the world, when in reality they are nothing more than cysts of weakness, which, when released into the world, flourish, bringing lightness, freedom. Me. Yes, that's true. The strange thing was that neither my mother nor my grandmother found it difficult to talk about sex, and I did. My grandmother had sexual relations with lovers, even doing advanced chemotherapy sessions when she was already weak. And the only reason she didn't tell us was not out of embarrassment, but so we wouldn't get emotionally attached to one of them and then she'd dump him. I am. Me, yes, terribly liberal. With my mother and my grandmother, I could talk about all this, but at the same time, I was ashamed. I am. Shame comes from vereri, which means mild fear or respectful fear. What are you afraid of? Me. To the trial, to be judged. I am. Because of the laughs at school, the bullying. Me. I was a victim of bullying throughout my schooling, and my sexuality was the key to such ridicule. So, I associated sex with ridicule, with criticism, judgment, bad, with the harmful laughter of others. I am. Sensitivity damaged. Me. Man must be strong. Being a sensitive man is being a faggot. Feeling was a prohibited act. I am. That is why it hurts so much for humans to transit the attribute of I feel, because they have been forbidden to feel, and for this reason feelings became silent secrets in the shadow of the unconscious. How many secrets would you like to reveal? Me. Not many, because perhaps this was the last of my secrets, entrenched in my emotional throat, recognizing an addiction that keeps me tied to the shame of what is forbidden, due to the trauma of laughter at what I feel, I am, and I do with my genitals. I am, and me. And I understand why what happened to me with this frustrated love hurts so much. In this next part, he and she are very much mixed, and it's not clear in the translation who it's being talked about. So continuing. Even though we are both of legal age, her mother made her believe that I had infected her with the disease that I do not have. And since he is a hypochondriac, he made his own son believe that he was sick and turned him against me, and threatened me and the foundation to tell the world what I had done to his son. He laughed at me, judged us for loving each other, and lied to break us up. I felt that all the judgment of my school teachers, of my classmates, of society, fell on the part of two people whom I loved very much and whom I came to love in a short time. I am. All the shame and the fear of being exposed to the world for a genital and sexual issue. Me. Yes. I replied that I didn't care what he said to the world, because I had no problem telling the world that I love his son and that he wasn't sick at all. That's why he never responded again. He knew he was lying. But I was never able to talk to him, because he made him cut off all communication with me by threatening him. A tragic story, which was recorded in me as the impossibility of speaking, the pain of being judged for what I feel, for my genitals, for my sexuality. I am. Each one has their traumas and secrets related to different embarrassments and circumstances. Recognizing them makes us free in understanding, and by sharing it, we show the fragile beauty of our souls. Because our pain becomes poetry that illuminates the hidden truths of others. By sharing our weaknesses, pains, anguish, by offering our tears and secrets, our sensitivity to the world, is that we really begin to wake up from this dream in which we seek to escape. The awakening of consciousness does not occur in knowing about the universe and remembering aliens or planets and dimensions, or channeling spirits or enlightening ourselves. Awakening occurs when we flourish, when we release control over our inner potential, exposing our weakness and sensitivity. And it is true that at times like these, we attract insects and vermin that can feed on us, parasites attracted by our sensitive aromas. But for this reason, a tree does not have one flower, but hundreds of them, with hundreds of petals, because the greater the expansion and liberation, the number of flowers affected in me will be imperceptible. No insect can consume all the flowers on a tree. Therefore, it is necessary to flourish in all directions. Open up to the universe. Allow yourself to cry, share, let go. Who judges your freedom is a being imprisoned in the prison of his beliefs, covered in his chains, oppressed by the weight of his incoherence. Me, I allow myself to bloom. I am. Allow yourself to feel. At first it will be painful, but then you will be able to see your petals radiate fantastic colors, illuminating the world like stars, perfuming the air with exquisite aromas. Sleep as long as you need, but after every dream, the awakening always comes. Me, I am a flower in the garden of the awakening of consciousness.